It's juice bag.
Maybe I'll go higher on this one.
It's juice bag.
So it's juice. Let's just do a few like juice bags.
Juice bag.
I think we should do hip hop hype beast.
Okay.
Juice bag.
Noise.
Okay.
Hello. Welcome back to Juice Bag. I'm Dakota Jones.
And I'm his wife, Jett Jones.
And today we're gonna be talking about some sick shit.
Dakota, you're so stupid, but so hot.
Thank you, Jett.
Yeah.
That was so nice of you.
I would say that, wouldn't I?
Well, no, you did call me stupid, but thank you for calling me hot too. That was nice.
You're welcome.
Welcome to Juice Bag, everybody. This is the real Dakota Jones. You were duped. You were duped by my wife, Jett Jones, earlier on. That wasn't me.
And this is my real voice.
This is my real voice. Don't believe the imposter.
That's not what I sound like. You know what I thought was interesting?
What?
So I was listening to a podcast that's a very popular podcast, and they were talking about how like manic and artsy and just like cool, but also like deranged it is to make a podcast knowing you only get like a handful of listeners each week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we are so doing that.
We get like 2 handfuls of listeners a week, I think.
Yeah.
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 I think 2
The
of
real
them are
ones.
us, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The homies be out there representing.
Yeah.
It's all good.
We see you, homies.
We see you, homies. Do you know what today is?
Today is December 19th. It is a Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I'm actually really surprised you did that because you're on like a 15-day vacation. I'm blown away you know the date
I
today.
realize it's only 12, but yeah, still fantastic.
That's okay.
I know.
How's your vacation going?
It's been kind of all over the place. I went to the dentist. I had a little cavity.
She got it filled.
And I got it filled. You missed my face being numb.
What do you mean?
Well,
I
'cause
was there
sometimes
right
you can
after.
see it.
Was it numb when you picked me up?
No.
Oh.
It had already, like, it only
Did you have a hard
lasted like
time
4
talking?
hours. No, it just felt really weird.
It always does.
And the
Yeah.
dentist moved so fast. And I think maybe they do that because clearly they're busy, but also like so that you don't overthink it. And you
Yeah.
know me, I get the gigglies when I'm about to get a shot. And
Yeah.
I knew I had to get a shot in my mouth.
Yeah, right in your jaw, right?
Yeah.
Oh, shit
it's
sucks.
making me cringe just thinking about it.
I
like,
know. I've gotten like 30 of those in my life. It
And-
sucks.
Okay, I didn't tell you this, but the dentist was very good at his job and good and distracting. I'm like cringing thinking about getting
I
a
know
shot.
your shoulders are covering your
know.
ears right now.
Like, ugh. But he kept talking to me while he was giving the shot. Like,
Don't you hate that?
yes, and he was like,
how's your day going? You're like,
"Well, I was getting a shot though. I'm like, I don't want to move so he doesn't squirt my freaking nerve endings
know.
and kill me or
It's like,
something."
oh, is it not enough that you're already in my wall?
Yeah. And he was like, he's like, it's okay if you talk. And I was like, and I, with my eyes, was like, no. Just like, he kept asking me questions and I kept like literally looking at him like, absolutely not.
No, I know. I'm looking forward to going to this one because I want to see what the vibe
Yeah.
is. But like the last one we went to, like there's a TV on the ceiling. They're like, don't talk to us. We're just going to be in your mouth and then you're going to get out of here.
This one is more of a classic dentist. It's not like super bougie. I've gone to some bougie dentist office, but this one is just kind of, it's nice, but just standard. Like they don't paraffin wax your hands and they don't.
What is that? Oh, when you dip your hand
in wax. Yeah.
Why would they do that at the dentist?
I don't
Or are you
know.
just joking?
I know that my dentist growing up.
You're kidding me.
You would go and they would.
Oh, the luxuries of class.
They
Penguin grass. What?
penguin
Penguin
grass.
grass?
Paraffin wax.
Oh, paraffin wax. Sorry.
Penguin grass.
What
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
So they would like, yeah, you'd go in. I mean, it's just like, it's to give the illusion that it's fancy. It's not honestly, you dip your hands in the wax and it's kind of fun, especially like as a teenager, like, this is kind of weird and cool.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting with your hands in wax in little plastic gloves for the hour or whatever you're getting your
it's in
teeth cleaned.
plastic gloves. You don't get to sit in like a little wax bowl.
Well, no, you just dip it and it's like moisturizing wax, and it's supposed
And then you put like a glove on.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then it's satisfying when they peel it off because it's like a cast of your hand or whatever. But I've also been to dentists where, like you said, there's like a TV on the ceiling, or they give you headphones. I would love that.
Headphones would be sick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because this time when my dentist was giving me the shot, he literally was talking to me, and then he said, it's okay to talk while getting the shot. He's like, pinch, pinch, pinch. You might feel some pressure, pressure, pressure. Also, are you doing okay? It's okay if you talk. And then he goes, tell me what the worst part about getting a shot, or no, he said,
Oh my God.
tell me what the best part of getting a shot is. And I was like, no. I was literally like, stop asking me questions. And he's like,
That's kind of diabolical
yes,
of him.
and he's like,
That's unhinged behavior.
when it's over, is that what he said, and then he pulled it out. So it was like I think he could tell I was nervous.
Oh, I thought you meant like
'Cause-
answer the question when it's over. It's like quit asking me questions.
Yeah, no. So he, I just had the giggles because I get the shot giggles. It's like adrenaline goes in my body, and then I'm like,
Yeah, and you're like constantly apologizing, and you're like, I'm sorry.
It was the hygienist was in there because she gave me like the Q-tip with all that bitter.
I gotta go to the next one. I would love to see this happen. Oh,
God.
it's so funny.
That they both left the room after the shot because you have to wait 10 minutes for
Yeah,
it to like
yeah,
really
yeah.
numb. And I like got up a little bit, like sat up, and I was looking for the needle because I was like, that thing must have been huge because I could see it. Like,
Was it like the big metal one, or was it like a little?
It was a big metal one.
Yeah, they reused the same. Oh God,
well, they don't reuse it. You
Well,
can't
they
reuse-
replaced the tips on it, but yeah.
I don't know.
At least
But-
the ones I was exposed to. They look like old medical equipment.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sure they sanitize everything, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was looking around for it, but they definitely hit it. I was like, darn, I was kind of wondering what it looked like because I want to know how tough I am.
Oh, I'm so brave.
I'm so brave.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to just generally speaking. So the dentist happened. It was a cavity that needed to be filled for a long time, but just kept getting put off because it was so small. So they just kind of redid the tooth.
Yeah.
No biggie. And then today I had a dermatology appointment, which went well. We're going a new direction, trying to nip this skin issue in the bud with just lifelong adult acne. It's just the best. If
We'll
you know.
get it figured out. I think we're getting close.
I think I'm in the home stretch. I've cut
Yeah.
out the gluten. I've
Yeah.
cut out the dairy.
Yep.
I'm, calorie deficit, generally less processed foods, creams, potions, lotions, pills, all of it. I'm hopeful that this year is my year.
I can be asleep by the time you get to bed from your nighttime routine.
Yep,
So,
I do try.
yeah.
I do try.
So what would you say your rating is for your mood, knowing that you're on vacation? How's your week going? Where are you right now?
Honestly, you always get on me for always doing a 7. So I'll give it a 6.
Really?
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Is that I'm a structure girly. I'm a routine girly. And like, you're not home.
Yeah.
So I have no one to really hang out with anyway. And I work from home. So honestly, days off when you work from home don't feel that different.
Yeah.
Because
You had the car for 2 days though. Why didn't you go out?
well, I went to appointments and I like poked around for like stocking stuffers for you and like looked around a tiny bit. But
Ooh, I gotta get stocking stuff.
yeah,
Damn it.
consider that your only hint.
Shit. I need the car this week.
Yeah. So anyway, you're going out Friday. I'm sure you can figure something out.
I'm not gonna take my little brother Christmas shopping
yeah.
for you.
I'm not going to tell you how to plan your life, but I'm just saying if you're out and about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to give, I said 6 because, I've had a bunch of appointments. Like getting a cavity filled is not fun. Going to the dermatologist and being like, it isn't working, is it? It's not that fun. Just kind of, your mom sent us some delicious like bonbon things and I definitely overconsumed those and I have some food guilt about it.
Those
And
bonbons are unreal.
they're unreal. And
They're
so,
unreal.
anyway, I'm just like, tomorrow, I'm happy you're taking the car because I don't have to like think about going anywhere. And honestly, driving you to work and back. So I've been dropping Dakota off at work and then coming home, then going to appointments, then spending a little bit of time out trying to get Christmas in order.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then by the time I'm back, I feed myself and then I go pick you up and then
Yeah.
I'm home. And so it's like, I really haven't done anything fun. And then I've had some food guilt and I've really like, update. Did we talk about New York last time?
No, we just went this week.
Oh.
We were talking about how we were
How
going
we were
to
going to New York.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like we had an episode about our trip to New York.
No.
But maybe not. Well, we can definitely talk about that in this episode. But anyway, so I just feel like, I don't know. It's all been kind of a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm.
I drank when we were in New York for the first time in one calendar year, 365 days. I had not had a drink. I had two whiskey sours, one margarita, and one glass of champagne. Discovered that I liked margaritas more than whiskey.
And you were drunk off that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was over the course of 3 hours.
A very adventurous walk back to the apartment.
Yeah.
Or not the apartment,
hotel room.
hotel.
Yeah,
New
it was
York,
fun.
yeah.
I've learned, I think if I'm ever going to drink again, I only need 2 drinks to get all like silly without being like drunk, and hopefully that would avoid a hangover. So I'm just trying to truly listen to my body, not get too unhealthy, meet all my goals. But since I did partake, I wanted to promise myself that I would be on the up and up this week, which is why I made like a homemade really yummy brothy, like bone broth, vegetable
Such
ramen.
good bone broth. Oh
Yeah.
my God. The rest of the soup's great too, but like that broth is like out of this world.
Yeah.
So good.
So I meal prepped that for lunches, and then for dinners I made like a medley of roasted vegetables and just like a lemon pepper chicken that goes on top, and everything is very nourishing and full of veggies and like low carbohydrates. I was just trying to like reset and promise myself a really healthy week. But because I lost my routine early in this week, post weekend out on the town,
Yeah.
I haven't really met the balance I've wanted, which is like, I want to feel very settled at home. I want to get the house in order because my mom's coming to town for a long time, for like 2 months in the new year.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and I have lots of things that I have cooking in my mind that I just want to get going on. So I'm very, very eager for like tomorrow.
That's
is how I
good.
feel. But
That's good.
as far as today, kind of a 6 because I'm like,
you're just anticipatory.
haven't really eaten quite as much as that would make me feel proud. And so I'm just not feeling like I have a routine and like I'm confident in what I'm doing the
But you're
past
very
couple days.
disciplined. And so make yourself a promise tonight that
Yeah.
you'll do Peloton when you wake up, and
That's a good
you'll
idea.
get a little workout in, do a little bit of cleaning, get your mom's room done. Like, you should set goals that you can achieve that day.
Yeah.
I feel like when it comes to tasks,
Yeah.
you get very huckleberry picking.
Yeah, I do.
Much like how I
like kind
do.
of zoomy around.
Exactly. You're like, do 10 minutes on this thing, 10 minutes on that thing. Just like focus on getting your mom's room very well done. And I bet
Yeah.
you're going to feel like an 8 tomorrow.
Yeah, I did feel better when I organized like our winter stuff. That made me feel
I know.
pretty good. That was on my list. So anyway, I also am working on hand making your Christmas present. And so I just have a lot of coals in the fire that I'm just like ready to do. But since I haven't started and I'm basically technically 5 days in now to my big stretch of time off, I'm feeling, I don't know, a little bit behind.
Yeah.
How about you? How are you feeling?
I'm going to be a little bit of a wee little 8.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
What
Above
changed?
average. I had coffee.
Yeah.
I did not have coffee this morning. I left my thermos at home with Jett, and she drank all of it, which is a crime. But I lived through it, barely. And I had office coffee today, and it was god awful. We got like this seasonal, it's like graham cracker cinnamon shit.
Ew.
But it's all that stuff's always like dark roasted and stuff with
Yeah,
the carrots.
ugh.
Oh, it was god awful. I couldn't
That's
drink it,
terrible.
and so I was just dragging at work. But I got home.
When that
Jett was-
happens, you should
what?
try green tea at work. 'Cause you get some natural energy. It's kind of nice.
I know. Even bad coffee is better than green tea. though,
What?
in my opinion. That's-
Wrong. Absolutely not. I refuse.
You can refuse. I don't care.
That is an incorrect statement.
I don't know. I'm not a tea guy, and so it was just kind of a boring day. And then I got home, found you, and you're like, I'm in a good mood. I had coffee, just being annoying with all your positivity, and.
You were being a slug when you got home.
I rotted for like 15 minutes, and then you drugged me to Goodwill, which I don't think we found anything we were looking for, which kind of stinks. But
no.
We got home, and then I made a pot of coffee. I'm having the coffee now. It's kicking in finally. I made myself a little dirty, nasty, slutty pizza, and it was delicious. And I love pizza, and it filled my soul. And anyway, I had that, and so I'm feeling a lot better. So
Was
I'm
that the last of your pizza
10.
dough?
It was the last of my pizza dough.
R.I.P.
But I've been noticing that if we get little things for me to make my sneaky little pizzas, we go out to eat a lot less. And just saying, not to like
Just saying
use that
you're the
as a
weakest
weapon or
link.
anything, but like if we don't keep buying pizza stuff, I'm gonna go out more. And then we also saw a really funny movie last night, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Oh boy!
Yeah, you gave it I think like a 3. I gave it like a 7.
I gave it like a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw the movie Saltburn in theaters yesterday.
Very artsy. Few wieners.
Yeah.
Few. I don't think any naked females in it. Just naked men.
You see a butt, a lady butt.
You do see a lady butt, but all ladies have butts, so that's fine.
Yeah.
The movie was pretty crazy. It was very interesting, and I feel like I didn't see the end coming, which was very nice.
Yeah, it's a good like whodunit, but also like there are some scenes that I just don't want burned in my brain. And so, yeah, if you're sensitive to nasty, weird sex things, like don't watch it.
Yeah, totally.
Because I am sensitive to those things.
Odd.
It was a little icky. It was a little bit icky.
But we saw a really good movie like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Do you remember what it was? It was like Dream Scenario.
Oh,
Dream Scenario,
yeah.
with
Good
Nicolas
job
Cage.
remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
That was so good. And honestly, the hardest I've laughed in a movie in a long time. And it was only one scene. The rest of the movie's pretty serious, but there's this one scene where Nicolas Cage is with a young gal.
Can you be
I'll be discreet.
content warning? Yes. Be
Yes.
very general.
Stuff gets hot and sexy.
Thank you.
And he's playing an old kind of incontinent man. And the girl starts making him dances at him. He apparently gets too excited, and stuff happens prematurely. And as it happens, he farts really loud. He apologizes, and then she tries to continue, and then he does it again.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, I was dying
We
in the
were
theater.
crying,
it was so
laughing.
funny.
One of my favorite
that was
things
so
now
funny.
is to be the person in the audience who's not afraid to emote. Like,
Yes, I know.
here is for 2024, I encourage all of our listeners, when you go to movies, say your feelings out loud. Like, you don't have to be talking during the movie, but when stuff like that happens, like, feel free to belly laugh. Like, that's the point of going to the theater. It's
Yeah.
like, it's a group experience. So, like, when I see shocking things on the screen, I'm not afraid anymore to be like, ow, no! Like, ew! Just
and like, I completely agree. We had this podcast that we are no longer doing called Ticket Talk back in the day, and it was inspired by our first movie going experience in the East Coast, where people emote, unlike the West, where everyone's quiet and respectful in the movies because we're all scared. We went to go see that Harry Styles movie with Florence Pugh.
Oh, God, what is it called?
It's the Florence Pugh and Harry Styles movie that everybody was crazy about at the beginning of
It's gonna drive me
2023.
crazy.
Don't think about it. And we went and saw it on a college campus in Philly, and like people were like, "Oh, Harry, no!"
Yeah.
like yelling and screaming at the thing.
Don't worry,
it
darling.
Was hilarious. It was Don't worry, darling.
Yeah.
God,
And
that was so funny.
Well, that one was like a packed audience, and everybody would. It's like, you know, back in the day when you were watching like iCarly or Drake and Josh, and like a hot person walks in the room, and the audience sound was like, ooh. That's what. Choke me. Wait, what the fuck?
Jett, me barking was enough.
So anyway, Drake and Josh didn't have those sound effects, but you get the point. And honestly, it makes it so fun. Like, obviously, be respectful, and like if
Don't actually bark.
Yeah. If someone's like shushing you, obviously stop. But I feel like the vibe of like
it's fun,
hooting and hollering, and like one of the ones that was really fun to watch this year that we haven't talked about is Cocaine Bear.
Oh my God.
That one, so
that was so funny.
It's a comedy and it's really gory.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like a 75-year-old woman sitting next to me, and she kept being like, "Oh my lord, oh my lord," and it made the movie for me. So I just feel like people sleep on
It makes the
emoting
movies
in
more
movies,
memorable.
and that's why you go to the theater.
Yeah. Oh my God. Do you remember when we went? Sorry, guys. This is going to be a movie podcast for the next 5 minutes. You remember when we went to go see Marlowe, which was the worst movie of this year, by the way?
Yeah.
We literally left midway through. It was so long and so boring. Liam Neeson, 100th movie. Shame, 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 shame. But we were. It was us two and then another couple. And the couple in the front, I could tell, didn't speak Spanish. Or didn't speak
we've
English.
told this story.
They didn't speak English, and they kept like, I think only one of them didn't speak English, and so they kept speaking into a translator, and so they were like having conversations midway through the movie, and at one point you hear him, the guy of the group, just very audibly talking to his phone in English. He's like, "How long is the movie Marlowe?" Because he was like looking up how long it was till it was over.
No, what was happening is, sorry, I'm going to correct you a little bit.
It's fine. Go ahead.
So the girl was obviously there with like her grandpa or sugar daddy. I couldn't really tell. He had like a fedora on and a bedazzled watch. So I'm making assumptions. Anyways, she spoke English and he did not. And he had the translator app on his phone. And to talk back and forth, they were, honestly, it was pretty obnoxious because they had the volume all the way up to talk to each other. And so during the movie, if they ever asked like a question to each other and were communicating back and forth,
Siri would be like screaming and you could hear her.
Yeah. So she'd be translating or reading something out loud. And then at one point in the movie, we hear his translator go, "How much is left of this movie?" Like, he just like, clearly he is so bored and wants,
And then,
like,
I think we left very hard, and then we left because it was horrible.
yeah, it was a terrible movie.
God, that was such a terrible movie. Anyway,
that's movies.
I know. God, I love movies so much. I do miss Ticket Talk sometimes. That was such a fun time.
It was a fun time.
I know
think we
people
can-
still message me about it and be like, "Oh, I just listened to this episode." I'm like,
Oh, yeah?
Oh, really? That's yeah. Anyway, what do we want to talk about this week, man?
Thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any?
I don't have any thoughts and I have no feelings. I am iRobot and no. So we have been meaning to have a conversation this week about a book that Jett has been reading and has found very inspirational lately. Mm-hmm. And I would like you to kind of not mansplain this to me, because you can't mansplain, because one, you're a girl and you can't mansplain if you're hot, and you're also hot. But could you mansplain this book to me so that I can better understand? I listened to like half of it, and I'm not going to lie, I don't quite get it, but I thought it would be a good kind of fun debate conversation.
Yeah, well,
What's the name of the book? Give the outline
it's
for the
called
folks.
The Courage to be Disliked. And if you don't mind looking up the maybe author of it, because I'm not sure
Yeah, sure.
who it is. But it's a type of philosophy or psychology, I'm not exactly sure, from a philosopher who liked to debate about things similar to like what you hear from Freud, where it's like the only reason you have your issues is because of your past and because your view on your mother and father and blah, blah, blah. And honestly,
It's the opposite of Freud, isn't it? It's like a philosophy that's the inverse of
it seems like it.
Freudism.
I don't know enough about Freud to make that claim, I suppose, but they do oppose a lot of the things that Freud was
I feel like that was
preaching.
the part I did kind of understand. Maybe I could go through that. But I did also want to mention the author's name, which is The Courage to be Disliked by Ikoro
Can I see?
Kishimi and Fumate Koga?
Oh yeah, it looks like maybe a Japanese name.
They're both Japanese. It's a
Ichiro
Japanese philosophy.
Kishimi and Fumitake Koga.
I think you're closer. But you can look it up. The Courage to be Disliked. It's free on Spotify, which is how we started listening to
Well,
it.
if you have the paid membership on Spot, we have premium.
Oh, so then it's the opposite of what I said. It is absolutely not
Well,
free.
it comes with a membership, which most people have. I
but
think, like
the
Netflix.
context of the book, as Jett was saying, is it is counter to Freudism. And Freudism is very much a cause and effect way of psychology, which is like, your daddy was mean, now you are mean. Or you didn't poop because you don't like your mom and you don't like to give your mom poop, and so you are going to be selfish as when you grow up or something like that. It's all about like traumas and triggers, and you are the way you are because of context.
It's more like nurture instead of nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Freudism.
Yeah.
And this is an argument of the past does not exist, nor is it relevant. Correct?
Yep.
What else?
Oh man, there's
Trauma's not real. That was a hard one.
Whew. Yeah, some kind of scary like big topics in today's world. But they break it down in a way that I find very consumable, and I feel like it is a perfect book for someone who is exhausted by maybe our culture's victim mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a very scary thing to say out loud publicly.
It's okay. Be
But-
vulnerable.
Yeah, for me, I have felt a level of exhaustion come into my life due to fear of the impacts that I'm making to just like arbitrary things, I guess. And the book really breaks down why we think the way we think and how to pass through life through our interpersonal relationships to cultivate basically courage to live authentically, knowing you are good,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way of explaining it. They do focus a lot on folks developing the courage to do the things that they wish that they weren't doing. But by not having the courage to do the things that they wish they were doing, they're actually, in fact, doing the things that they want to be doing. And that's kind of the mind trippy thing about this book, which is that like this is like an example from like the most recent chapter that I read, which is like, I did not want to repair the relationship with my father because it was convenient for me to use him as a crutch to excuse myself from bettering my own things or being nicer to other people. And I could use him as an excuse to...
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's that kind of stuff. It's very much self-accountability.
Yeah.
It's very much like no jokes. Your life is in your hands. It's up to you. Nobody
Yes.
else's opinion matters.
Which, I'm not preaching this as if I believe this way of thinking is correct or right for everyone, but it's a concept to challenge the way you think and reframe it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily saying there are some people who don't have such, like, I'm not saying like this book is my Bible and I believe everything it says and it applies perfectly to my
quite
life.
thought-provoking.
But-
The whole narrative actually, sorry to interrupt again, but the
Go
whole
ahead.
narrative takes place with a youth actually arguing with a philosopher. And the youth is very much from a, I would say, modern day perspective,
Yeah.
kind of Freudian outlook. And then this philosopher is very patient and explains to the youth basically why he believes what he believes, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah. Very fascinating.
Sorry, I threw you off.
No, you didn't throw me off. I'm just like remembering more and more from the
I know.
book.
I'm just trying to provide context.
Yeah, no, it's great because you've listened to it a little bit more freshly than I have, and I want to focus in a little bit more. So I might fumble through some of the concepts, but I'm sure soon I want to re-listen to it in full
we
when
don't
I
have
can
to give a
focus.
full book review. I would just like to hear kind of your conclusions or kind of your thoughts, outcomes.
So here is a micro example from our own lives that we reference actually quite a bit. So this, what was it? Fall, you and I went to Vermont.
Yes.
We wanted a cheap place to stay.
That's
so we
us.
found a camping site on Airbnb
Ooh-wee.
and we drove out to rural Vermont into someone's backyard.
Yes.
And we car camped to be cheap. It was only $25.
Yep.
We didn't want to break the bank. That's where we were staying. But then they did warn in their article or in their posting or whatever that like this is a very steep climb in your car. Thankfully, we have like all-wheel drive, so it's fine. But they're like, you may need to do like a couple switchbacks, and if you don't have 4-wheel drive, like don't book this, or you can ask us for a ride up the hill and we'll take you up the hill. So it was a pretty intense, like kind of mountain switchback little like forested area. And you and I were talking about how once we got there that we couldn't believe that these people were brave enough to rent out this
Such
campsite.
a hazardous campsite.
Yeah, because even in our Subaru, there was a bunch of pine needles on the ground, so it actually made
there
like
were actual trees like on the ground that we were like zipping and
there were
dodging.
like stumps and things. Like it would have been very easy if you weren't careful to high center or slide down and like hit a tree or just like all sorts of stuff. So you and I left the Airbnb, and as we do, we gossiped about our thoughts about their entrepreneurial endeavor of $25 a night campsites that were dangerous.
That's our red flag, baby. We are
And-
the people who talk shit behind her back.
Well, I think every couple unpacks their experiences and says their little
What
piece.
else are you supposed to do on an
Exactly.
8-hour road trip?
So anyway, I feel like in the book, what I found interesting is that within the concept of having the courage to be disliked, disliked is a loose word, or like the courage to be other, the courage to be yourself, the courage to offer in a very pure sense of the word who you are to others.
Yeah.
And in this case, people are hardly making any money from us on Airbnb. They probably made $10 after processing fees for us
Probably.
to stay up there. And they have to go clean up the campsite after us. Like, obviously, we left it clean and stuff. But, like, they got to go check it.
Totally.
Their time. They were very responsive, too. Like, anyway. So the fact of the matter is, like, although we were relatively judgmental about them for kind of, like, the hazard that they could be bringing to people by offering up that campsite, and how it kind of freaked us out a little bit to think about all these random strangers potentially coming out to your backyard to go to a hazardous place, and how could they manage that without all the liabilities. But what they did was offer up a cheap place to stay with good intentions. From what I saw in all of the reviews is people were like, yeah, they were super clear and honest that the hill was huge. Our car couldn't make it, so they gave us a ride up.
Yeah.
Or, our car, it was a hoof, but we made it, and we're happy we did. It was a great place to stay. Same thing for us. Like, it was a great place to stay. We didn't have our camp gear set up super well. It was kind of a mess of a night, but it wasn't because of the campsite. It was because of us.
Yeah.
So all that being said, I feel like it's having that approach to life, which is not being so afraid that everything is going to go wrong, or that you can't trust your community of human beings. And it's to view all humans as connections and as people you can offer an authentic, version of yourself to, without fear
Of judgment.
And in that case, those people did not fear the judgment of, like, honestly, here's your patch of grass out in the mountain. Good luck getting up there. Like, but it was great. And
Yeah.
a lot of people get a cheap, nice place to stay. And that's what I'm saying is, like, in life, having this fear, if they had the fear that, it was a little bit too steep of a hill and they probably shouldn't offer it to people like us would have not gone to Vermont.
We wouldn't have had that experience. That's
Exactly.
for sure.
And so the cause and effect and the impacts you can make by being brave and embracing that, having the courage to be disliked is offering up a patch of grass on Airbnb to offer a resource to your comrades, they were calling them, or your community, or your fellow human beings.
Yeah.
And letting the magic unfold from there, from an authentic place. And if they don't like it, you don't have to fear them not liking it. It just wasn't for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so kind of bringing those concepts into your life, as far as like goal setting and relationships, and there are so many different little micro versions of that where you can bring your authentic self to them without fearing that your intentions will be misrepresented, and if they are, that's on them, not on you. And it is a self-centered way to look at life, but they also kind of break down how the way to get beyond that is to make sure you're serving your community.
Well, yeah, I think that's a really good example. I think we should maybe get a little bit more specific with some like examples of our own life that maybe we identified with the book.
Okay.
I think that's a good framework, but I know that in the book too, they were talking about how a lot of the time, like that fear that is driving you, the fear of being liked or being disliked essentially, is a limitation in a lot of ways. And that if you're always constantly being afraid of being disliked, you're never quite free, and you're always living within the shackles of your own mind and your own boundaries. And so in a lot of ways, having somebody in your life that does dislike you just means that you're being true to your values and true to who you are. And so that's why I was a little confused when you sent me this book, because I listened to it and I was like, oh, this is like individualism. Like this is like disregard for other people's feelings and like just living your own life. It seemed kind of like counter communal and like not necessarily something I was into, especially something between me and you, which were like not codependent, but just like we're so reliant on one another. But then as I was listening to it more and more, it was like it was talking about just being true to just yourself, and how it's hard to get your head around that, how it's not necessarily selfish to be true to yourself, but it is a sense of freedom. And I felt like that was really helpful. And they also gave a lot of examples about how like this whole philosophy can affect the way you are every day, and how you are responsible for your own actions, and why you are the only thing keeping you from doing what you want to be doing. And I thought that was probably my biggest takeaway, which was, it was really hard, which is like, I would never, to use your example, allow myself to give a subpar product like a rocky piece of crap land on the side of a mountain to have somebody stay up there for $25. Like that's not worth it to me. And so I would never allow that to happen, but those people did. And I think that's great that they did, but I don't know if I would. And maybe that's something I need to work on. I don't know.
Yeah, but you got my point behind that, which is if they hadn't had the cojones to be like, some people could have hated their experience out here in our backyard, they never would have posted it. You and I searched up and down Vermont and New Hampshire for a cheap place to stay.
There was nothing.
This was the only one.
Well, can I ask you about a different part of the book then? Because I think we're kind of in agreement with that. Is that like, don't let fear drive your life. I think that's a pretty common like philosophy. I think a lot of people strive to do that. But there was one that was really perplexing, talking about how you are what you make your reality, and the only thing holding yourself back is you and your excuses and your past and all this stuff. What do you think about that?
Oh, there was so they open up the book. He opens up the book asking the youth, the boy, have you ever drank well water?
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
And he was like, well, yeah, I guess so. And he was like, okay, when you drink well water, it comes from like the ground, and that water never changes temperature because it comes from such a low place that it's
geothermically heated, and it is always objectively 18 degrees.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when you drink it, it's 18-degree water. And when you drink it in the summer, it seems cold and refreshing. But when it's in the winter,
No, you're right.
In the winter, it seems like palatable and almost warm.
Yeah.
And the example of that is the temperature of the water never changes. It is your perception of your environment.
Yes.
Is the thing that changes. And so I think this is so true. And I don't know how you couldn't see this in our own lives in the last year, where, you know, we were stuck in some toxic patterns with friendships, with our relationship with food, relationships with alcohol, relationships with parents, family members, everyone. Like I'm not saying we were horrible people or anything like that, but they just weren't going the way a kind-hearted, good-intended person would want them to.
Yeah.
And we were stuck in this paralysis of like not knowing what to do and not knowing how to change because we were so afraid of change, and the fear that removing some of that that pattern or that change would affect something that we wouldn't have control over, would ruin something.
Yes.
Got us stuck in a particular place. Am I being too general for you?
No, you're just being very, yes, I remember all that.
Okay, well, I'm also trying to paint the picture, I guess, for our listeners too. So all of that has changed for us, and the only thing that's changed within that is our perception of what we can accomplish.
Yes. The whole story of the well water it's a narrative and a metaphor for subjective viewpoints, which is like, there are objective realities in life. There are things that happen to you. There are things that happen around you that are objective events, but your perspective is the thing that gives those things
Paints
weight.
the picture.
And you, as unfortunate as it is to hear, are responsible for your subjective thoughts. And you can choose to think about anything any way that you want to. And a lot of the times, as Jett was saying in the top, we all do it. We all look at things in kind of a victimhood mentality. Some people not as much as others, but I tell you what, ever since I've moved to the East Coast, I've realized, holy shit, do I have a victim complex? Oh my God. I've even talked to friends back from Idaho, just like people from East Coast, which I tend to think we're a little bit more passive people. And I'm like, oh man, like it must be like a cultural thing or like a regional thing or something, because it's so easily identifiable in others. And then you start analyzing yourself and you're like, oh shit. Like, by me being a victim all the time, expressing, like, let me get vulnerable. Like, this is an example of something that happened at work when somebody asked me, oh, have you been hitting the course very often, talking about golf? I was like, oh man, like, I just can't afford it right now. Like, it's just can't really afford it. I haven't really been doing it. And then the guy's like, oh man, like, oh, okay, well, sorry. Well, hope you get there sometime or something like that. And I remember being like, oh, well, I feel like that was honest. And I was a little perplexed by his reaction. And then I was thinking about it, and you helped me think about it too. And I'm like, I probably just like totally isolated that guy because I compared us, and I took power of that situation by making myself the smaller thing that needed to be cared for. Because I was like, oh no, I can't afford that, but you can. Like, I can't do the same thing you do because I know you're playing golf, but I can't play golf because I'm limited, because I'm the one limiting myself.
Well, and then we know in actuality,
I totally could be playing golf.
We're paying down debts.
I know. I just have
hardcore.
others' priorities.
Yeah.
And so all I need to do is change my perspective and change my response to that guy who just wanted to have a genuine conversation with me about
He
something
just
he's
wanted to
passionate
connect
about
a silly little game.
And I made it serious. And
Yeah.
I should have said, oh no, like, I'm focusing on my tests right now. Like, I just haven't had time to get out to the course. Totally want to, though. Would have been a completely different reaction. The conversation would have lasted 10, 15 more minutes, but since without even realizing it, it just was like, oh man, like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't really have the money. It's like, no, I'm choosing not to play golf. And that's okay. That's totally okay.
Yeah.
But I need to be aware of that. And it goes so much deeper than that. And there's so many good examples in the books of people being like, people love to hold on to like family traumas and other things as like, this is going to sound really harsh, guys. I'm still kind of fighting with whether or not I even believe a lot of this, but like it, there'll be like, oh, like as I was saying, like my dad was mean to me, or like my family never cared about me. And then you develop those things as like a kind of a ammunition in your pouch that you can use in arguments to basically give yourself an arsenal of excuses for why you don't think you want to do something that you want to do.
Yep.
And so when it comes down to it, it's like, are you not living your dream life because you can't and the world is against you? Or is it because you have really bad social anxiety and you want to stifle that by
burying yourself in excuses and ways to isolate yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've both found ourselves in those patterns.
That was us a year ago.
And
completely
but still now,
transparent.
like I still have them, and I realize another thing that I've kind of started to unpack with it is like, what is my he basically, I don't remember the exact words, and I'll want to listen to this again so I know for sure for myself, but basically is that every problem you have is an interpersonal relationship problem. So you may think it's a cosmic issue or maybe a flaw with just yourself, but the fact is every issue and perception that you feel in this world where there are other human beings, which they argue whenever there are humans that you have to interact with, there will be problems.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
So you need to accept in your life that there will be complications, challenges, hardships, horrible things, but also all the fantastic things. But because you interact with humans, and these are things you can't avoid.
Exactly.
And
so you have to learn how to live with them and adapt to them.
Yes, you have to learn how to manage your juice bag and know why your perception is shaping your reality in those conversations.
Yeah.
An example that they talk about in the book that I found pretty helpful, I think a lot of people could relate to this, especially over on the East Coast where it's very dense and people be driving like it's the Wild West.
Good God.
Is that when you get in your car and you start driving and you're thinking to yourself, oh man, everybody's going, like, I'm just mentally preparing for everybody to go really fast and I'm going to be super careful. I'm staying in the lines. I am going to make sure that my movements are very predictable so we are safe, and I'm going to keep my community safe by driving between these two lines and taking these turns perfectly and using my blinker and all these very intentional things you are bringing to keep your community safe. And then a Nissan Altima with a bumper dangling off of it swerves through a red light using a turn lane to get past you and zoom off, comes by. You are setting yourself up to be angry because of your own judgments you are casting on yourself is the expectations you have of others. Therefore, you are setting yourself up to be angry with your fellow human beings when they do things like that because they are not conforming to societal standards because you have a belief about how you ought to be.
Yeah.
You expect others ought to be. Therefore, when they break those rules or expectations, or maybe this is a bad example because clearly running a red light is literally illegal. So, I mean, that's not good. But let's just say maybe you're
Well, we don't have to make it any more complicated. In Philly, you can almost expect that. Like,
yeah,
you just have to be prepared for it.
right. It is kind of the culture over here. Is
Good
like
God, is it? Yes.
people run red lights. It's just a different vibe. And you just have to go in knowing this is the cause and effect of freedom in America and an understaffed police force and people being busy with other things, and Nissan Altimas are going to zoomy zoom and we're going to let them zoomy zoom and hopefully they experience, something that has them change their ways, but it is not our task to cast judgment on them.
Yeah.
And, it just
It doesn't benefit you at all. And so I guess what's one thing, an example maybe for us to get vulnerable, what's something that you think you're using as like a crutch or something that you're using to limit yourself?
Oh boy. Well, as it's unfolding at this moment in time, I can't quite think of an exact example, but it's clearer to me in some of the changes I've made in recent years. And one for me was identifying as an introvert.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I used to scream it to the high heavens. I swear in my Instagram bio, I had INFJ in it for a while. Like, I just was so proud of being a rare, whatever it's called.
Personality type.
Yeah, personality type.
Introspective processor.
Yeah. Which I am very inward and I do process and I am reserved. But I've learned as I've taken space from my past perception of my life is that I am not necessarily only an introvert. I'm an omnivert or an extrovert sometimes.
You don't even have to put a label on it. You like talking to people.
Yeah. But I also like my space sometimes. And I think probably a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And so once I moved to the East Coast, my perception changed because I no longer had family or friends to rely on to fill my space. And I knew if I did not squash my own perceptions of myself, I would be stuck working from home, never making a connection, and letting life pass me by without the things that I truly want, which at the core of what I want genuine, heartfelt, deep connections with lovely, mainly women. I just love making gal pals. And if I didn't put myself out there and be brave, and I used Bumble BFF to like make friends and, still have those friendships, that I would have just been a shut-in, which is not ultimately what I wanted.
Yeah.
And when I was identifying as an introvert, I was doing it out of fear because I had social anxiety.
Yep.
And the core of it was I didn't like my job.
Where did that social anxiety come from? It was fear of vulnerability. It was fear.
Not even fear of vulnerability. It was generally speaking.
You would always talk about how you were so scared of looking dumb in conversations and being vulnerable with people and scared of letting people in. And so when you were faced with this idea of like, I'm going to go do something out there that I'm scared of, but I want the good results of making friends. And so what would happen is you'd almost manufacture these excuses or these things,
these reasons
that kept you home and kept you from doing it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I found people that helped keep that narrative alive. I found, social media accounts that I would binge content about being an introvert and how great it was.
Yeah.
And I just fed into my own perception of my own life and really painted a picture for myself about how great it was to ice everybody out and cast judgment on other people.
And I just can't make friends because that's just not me.
Exactly. And it's not,
totally get
it isn't me. And when I decided to step away from this law that I was the most introverted introvert I'd ever met.
1% of the population, INFJs,
I was able to open up quite a bit. And like you said, so this book, what has brought to light for me, and thank you for helping me go a step deeper, is identifying a feeling or a label that you give yourself and ask yourself the true why on why you have categorized yourself that thing and what you are fearing that you are protecting by enacting that in your perception.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's one I remember. So I need to unpack. I know I have stuff going on right now in my own mind that I need to like either come to terms with or build confidence with. And I want to build confidence in who I am from all aspects so that I don't feel as though I need to not, like I don't belong in a room or, like even something, I don't think it was related to this book, something I saw someone on YouTube or something talk about was like, or no, it was a reel from a hiring manager talking about how like, or just like in a corporate setting, how you shouldn't say you have imposter syndrome out loud to anybody. And that's something I had never heard before. And they were like, it's because automatically like people will have biases towards you that make you think like maybe you don't belong in the room. And because you voice those things to these people, you are casting your own perception of yourself to them and limiting yourself and therefore causing yourself to have imposter syndrome because you don't think you belong. Therefore, others will think you won't belong.
I thought about this too recently. It's been something that's bothering me because I remember that we used to pride ourselves again on being like empathic. And I'm like, guess what, Dakota? Everyone's empathic, bitch. Like everyone can pick up on vibes and stuff. Like you're not, maybe I'm a little bit more connected to it. I don't know. I still like to think I am, but, people pick up on vibes and they can tell when you're heavy or insecure or something like that. Like totally
people
easy to pick up.
People are way more perceptive.
And so if you have imposter syndrome, no need to say it, homie. You'll either show it or you won't. So you might as well hedge your bets.
Or learn you have the ability to take up space in a room confidently as you are without any changes. You can come as you are in that moment. And you'll probably come off as the most confident in the room if you decide that. It just takes one little decision to be like, I deserve to be in this room, even if I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
No, you do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely you do. You're here. Make yourself known.
Yeah.
I think mine, to wrap up this segment, my vulnerable thing that this book kind of shared with me, or allowed me to see, is I have a victim complex. Holy cow. Do I have a victim complex? I use it to basically make every decision I have in my life. I'm always like pushing towards something because of something that happened to me, or something that I perceived happened to me, or something I could make right again. And it's so frustrating to see that and realize that I'm working on everything that's based in the past and stuff that hasn't even happened, has happened, but is no longer relevant. And it's just my perception of it. And so, not that like lessons learned aren't great. Like, it's great to learn from the past, but at the same time, I felt like I was limiting my life so much just by ways that I was used to doing things. And it's always been around like finances and stuff for me. I feel like if you handed me $100, I wouldn't even know what to do with it. Yeah. And I would probably just be like, well, I'm poor. Like, I just don't know how to spend money. And I'd make it like your issue or something like that. And be like, well, I'm poor. I don't live life like this and blah, blah, blah. And so it's been really nice to let myself feel a little bit more freedom lately. And I feel like the Star Wars costume we played up has actually been helping me, because that is something I never thought I ever would
actually do.
That seemed like such a waste of money. And here I am finally like fulfilling my dreams of like building a Star Wars costume. By the way, folks, a little update. I'm building a Star Wars costume. It's Boba Fett. You can follow me on Disco Fett on Instagram to document the whole process. But seriously, I am feeling so good about that recently. And I feel like it's something I have never thought of myself as doing. Like, I don't even buy clothes for myself that often. And I feel like lately I've been wanting to. And it's been really nice to kind of set myself free from that. So I think it's a really interesting book. I still have to finish it. I
do too. I haven't finished it.
Well, we should finish it together, we can keep talking about it. Maybe we can bring some more insights to the next episode. But
I don't know. Maybe if we have some
if we have some bangers. But I honestly, reading this the whole time, I was thinking about reading the 4 Agreements again. Which if you haven't read that, read that book. So good.
Yeah. My one fear, though, with us promoting too many of these self-helpy books is a lot of the time what happens is when you speak about them publicly and talk about the positive effects and perception changes you've had, is that when people hear it when they're not ready, they get upset.
No, I get that.
And I
get
don't.
that.
Yeah.
But hey,
so,
have the courage to be disliked, bro.
I'm just saying.
It's okay to be a contrarian. Like,
yeah.
Here's my hot take. Guess what? It's the end of the year and it's time to reflect, assholes. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's think about what we want to do next year and what we did this year that maybe we didn't like. And I don't know. It's just looking in the mirror, man. Like, it's hard. We all do it. And I only say that with the best of intentions. I love every one of our listeners. I really do. Only because I know all of them at this point. But, yeah, I feel like everyone should encourage themselves to do the same kind of thing. Think about where some of your weaker moments lie and what's kind of holding you back and whether or not you can change some of those things. But I think it's been fun to talk about this book. Do you want to keep talking about it, or do you want to go to questions?
I think we can go to questions. We have a listener write-in.
No way.
We do.
What?
So
who is it? Give their name and address.
You'll have to see.
Did your phone just die?
It did.
Sorry, viewer. There goes your question.
No, it's on our shared Instagram.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
Don't you worry. I already knew this.
Okay.
Which I actually think that's my phone turning back on, which is even more mysterious because it died previously.
Oh, Apple. Okay,
Anyway.
We'll get that figured out. We'll see you in a little bit.
Bye.
Sorry to interrupt this week's episode, folks, but we'd like to remind you that if you enjoy what you're listening to please consider subscribing and sharing our podcast. Also, don't forget to leave us a review on all major podcast platforms.
We're about to roll into our Q&A portion of the episode, so if you'd like to be featured next time, hop over to Instagram and submit your question to us at JuiceBagPod. Now let's get back to it.
Welcome back.
My voice broke on
It
that
did.
one.
You ruined it.
Our first one that wasn't absolutely
Perfect.
God. Before we get into questions, I wanted to talk about a few stories that I had this week that didn't fit into our first.
Oh, I didn't
part
know
of the
this.
thing.
Okay.
Not to totally throw us in the weeds, but I was having kind of a weird day last week because I don't think we'll post this in time, but I won't say what the present was. I ordered some presents for my family. It was Dad and Dallas's presents. Everyone's family got one gift this year. That's the spoiler. But I accidentally ordered them to our house. And so I was returning them to Kohl's. I was standing in line waiting to return my little Amazon package. In this case, it was Dallas's. Dad's was still in the mail. And I was returning it, and I had this conversation with this old lady who was like in there. I was in there for like 20 minutes in this line, and like everybody was talking and stuff. And I'd never realized up until the moment that this woman who was in front of me was about to leave, the thing that she was in line to exchange was
Not exchange, return.
was a leather whip and like one of those like kind of weird horsetail whips too. How did I miss that? Oh god, it totally changed my mood that day. It was so funny. God, that was so funny.
Never know what Aunt Shirley's getting up to.
Dude, God, that was hilarious. I've been meaning to tell that on the podcast for like
that
a week.
one was, yeah.
Ugh.
After you told me that afterwards. Kohl's is unhinged. You know what I mean? Like, here's my thoughts on Kohl's.
Make it brief, but yes.
Very brief. Is everyone forgets about Kohl's until they get like a random email or there's a sale. And so whoever comes in there is trying to get like a dirt cheap department store deal. And then there's also people coming in only because they have Amazon returns. So like, because Amazon has come to such a wide populace of customers, it brings in such a wild goose chase of people that you just like, you can never know what to expect. I feel like it's the new Walmart.
I kind of feel that way too. Yeah. The only
like
reason
a
Kohl's is alive
Walmart.
right now is because of the Amazon returns.
And because there's a Sephora inside of it.
Yeah.
I told you about the time I was in Kohl's and I was leafing through the like clearance rack. I was leafing through it and all of a sudden I hear a voice from like my hip height and it was this tiny old lady in a wheelchair and I had the shirt I was holding. She's like, "Wow, that's really pretty." And I was like, "Thank you." And I was like, "I'm not sure if I'm going to get it yet." She's like, "Where did you find that?" And I was like, "Oh, just like over in that back corner past the juniors department, a little bit to the left." She's like, "Oh, okay. Can you take me there?" And so I wheeled this little old lady all the way
you didn't tell me about
Kohl's.
that.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Oh, that's
And then
some good karma points.
I left her to look, but then I was like, is she going to be able to find her way out
She's
there?
like, "Who are you? Why am I here?"
Like, first of all, how did she...
hippie is trying to kill me.
I don't know how she got there that frail. And how she couldn't see, so it just brought this whole new perspective about how someone in a wheelchair can't see over the hangers.
No,
and so
totally, yes,
a store is just a giant maze.
It's a whole different world.
So anyway,
Yeah.
Kohl's is a crapshoot on who you're gonna get.
The other story I've been meaning to tell on the podcast for like 2 or 3 weeks now is Jett and I were having a goofy morning. We were certified silly gooses that morning. Jett had coffee for the first time in like a week. We were both on one, and
I don't know what you're gonna say.
I know. So we always make this joke whenever we're having like really lovely fun mornings where we're like dancing and kissing and having all this stuff, and Vito's always at our feet trying to like nip at our fingers and stuff. We're like, "Vito, what is it like to have parents who love each other?" And we always like try and make him feel guilty about it, but he's a dog and he's stupid and he doesn't understand. We think it's funny because we can't relate.
Because we come from divorced households, and so we are healing
we're
our
just curious,
sense of
Vito.
marriage.
How does it feel?
Yeah,
How does it feel to have parents
we like
who are
to
stable
shame
and
him for
you?
being having such a perfect family,
Yeah.
like parent view.
And so I thought I would make the joke even funnier by acting like a typical parent. And so I yelled like my dad used to yell. And I was like, I'm not going to do it on the thing. And I like screamed and yelled and I did all this stuff. And it scared the dickens out of Jett. But she kind of laughed. She's like, "Why in God's name did you do that?" And I was like, I just wanted to see how it felt. And I felt like an idiot.
Yeah. That is so true. Yeah. What did you do? Yeah, that was
I yelled something
random.
about like, you're such a bad boy, go to your room. But I yelled like at the top of my lungs in like a really authoritative
Stern voice.
And I felt like a dumbass. It was so crazy. And like in that moment, I'm just like, why the fuck are people yelling? That shit's so childish. It's so crazy. That's my hot take.
We
Don't yell.
We do not have kids, and we have not been pushed to our limits.
No.
But also,
that's true.
We
That
are
is very true.
we are typical mellow people.
Mm-hmm.
Although you road rage a little bit, like you don't rage, but you like yell within your own car, angry. So you raise your voice.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I do
it
it,
could
and
happen.
then one person gets a bad word, and then that's it. Well, nobody gets anything. I just say it in my car, and then that's it. I never road rage.
Yeah,
so
you're like, F
don't
that guy.
ever accuse me of road raging. I would never road rage. But I do scream at people.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to just like totally see how unhinged your parents used to be, just try yelling.
Practice
in like
yelling the way they yelled at you,
Yeah.
and then you'll be like, "What the heck?"
I know, like that took so much of my energy. That was so much work. I feel like an idiot. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
You called out your dad a little bit right there.
Huh? My dad, he was open about it. There was this one time he yelled at my little brother, and my little brother was having like a meltdown. He went up to his room and he's like, "Go to your room." And then he went upstairs, and then we were all like, "Geez," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I used to do that to all you guys. It's like nothing. It's just how you treat kids." I was like, "Oh, hot take." But
Yeah.
it's fine. It's a generational thing. I'm not necessarily dragging anyone down. I got yelled at as a lot. Never hit or anything like that, but yelled at plenty.
Must be nice.
Still, just hilarious. Just
Yep.
hilarious. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I've been wanting
No,
to share
those are two
stories.
good stories. Thank
Yeah.
you for remembering to share. We need to be better about that.
You're welcome.
We've lived a lot of life since our last episode.
I know,
Went
and
to-
we always mean to mention stuff on the podcast. Then we get stuck
went to New
into
York,
something.
saw a swinger in public,
Oh yeah.
and then
Wait, saw a swinger in public.
the whip lady at Kohl's.
Oh yeah. Well, you can't tell if she's a swinger. She's
Well,
just.
she's swinging a bat, swinging a whip around.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, we'll avoid mistress
On
at Kohl's.
to questions.
On to questions. Actual viewer questions.
Woo,
Thank you,
woo.
viewers. Keep sending them in. You guys get gold stars. Maybe we'll send you a gift at the end of the year. Oh, got
We
lost in the
won't.
mail. We won't do that. But thank you. Question number 1. You ready for this? Mm-hmm. Okay. What were the biggest surprises / changes in your relationship when you got married?
Marriage.
Let's go.
View on the word family.
Interesting. Elaborate.
So pre-marriage, when someone was like, "Oh, tell me about your family," I'd be like, "Oh, well, I have a mom and a dad and a sister. And then I have extended family that I don't really see, and that's my family. And then I have a boyfriend or a fiance." And
Yeah.
you know, like the word and association that you think of with family, I think changes to reprioritize. It's like the way I see it in my mind's eye, I guess, is like, where do you see Christmas being hosted in your mind? It like goes from your mom and dad's house to your own house with your
It's
partner.
not where it's hosted. It's who's there.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like, yeah, it's who you know is always going to be in your major life events and the confidence behind that shift.
Yeah,
where
and up until that point, you're like, oh yeah, mom will be there, dad will be there, siblings will be there. Yeah.
which it's great if they can be, but at a certain point, I feel like what you view as the word family adjusts. And then it's not like you met this really awesome stranger who you do not have blood related relations with, hopefully. And and you choose to, you know, partner up with them, and it's awesome and exciting and maybe lustful and amazing and joyful in all those ways, but it doesn't feel as certain as family. It just feels like the best type of love you've ever imagined, and it's with an awesome person. And, you know, you and I had been together 7 years before we got married or something like that.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't expecting to feel much when we got married because
Me
I was
either.
like, I've been with this chick forever.
and we lived together already, and our finances were already
We
the
owned
same
a house
thing.
together.
Yeah.
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 You owned a house. I lived at your house.
Well, yeah. So I feel like just my perception of what the word family meant adapted, and then you became my priority, and then you're my family I moved across the country with.
Yeah. And for full transparency, we talked a little about this during the break because we wanted to be consistent. And like, honestly, my answer is very similar, which is, first of all, at the end of my wedding, after the ceremony, we did our little walk or whatever. We did the celebration. I wept.
We wept.
We had a minute before everyone came out to like celebrate with us, and we just cried in each other's arms. And I can't tell you, you'll experience it when you get married if you're not married already. But it's like this changing of the guard. It's like a shifting of weight on your shoulders from one to another. All of your priorities suddenly shift. And you were talking about like just that certainty of knowing that this person is with you forever now. And it's not like nothing's in question and nothing is not absolute anymore. There's this big weight of like reassurance and almost like responsibility of knowing that like all of a sudden you're not alone. And it's overwhelming.
We cried
overwhelming.
A lot. We cried a lot.
It's the most. I think that's why people find their weddings to be the most like best days of their life.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy the feelings that you feel. It's such a juice bag filled day because like I don't think you'll ever get that many flood of like serotonin in your life until you have like a kid or something.
Yeah, it feels better than any birthday could ever feel.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay, my birthday is the day I want to be surrounded by the people that I love, and they're all celebrating me being born, and that feels fantastic. But there's something about two families that are stranger families uniting for this day to support you guys that just is magical.
Yeah. It
Magical.
makes you softer,
even
man.
in
really
a tiny scale. Like even if you had like a micro wedding where there's like 5 people there and you can celebrate in that way.
It is what you bring to it, but it's always special.
Yeah.
It seriously poetic.
Yeah.
I loved our wedding. I loved our vows, in fact, too. I think at one point I mentioned at the beginning of my vows, like, or maybe at the end, I was like, I would still be that same 13-year-old boy sitting on that park bench if I hadn't met you. And I felt like that. I felt like it was a transition into a new personhood when I married you. All of a sudden, that 14-year-old boy was now that 19-year-old, we'll call him a man, who was now married to wife.
We were 20 when we got married. We were in the 2s.
Were we?
Yeah. We were both 20.
Maybe you were. You're older than me.
We were both 20 because it was in June.
Well, screw my whole sweet thing I was going to say. So thanks for the clarification, jerkwad.
I didn't care.
Want to go to our next question?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, good. God. Okay.
My phone is dead, so you'll be reading the other question.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I have a Samsung which lasts longer and is better, unfortunately. So our next question, again, thank you to everyone who sent questions. Starts off with, I know you guys recently talked about supporting each other through illness and made me think about another trying scenario. How do you support each other with big downs in life, like failing a major test, parentheses, relatable AF? Tell me about it. Big rejections, etc. Also, how do you communicate what kinds of support you need during those times? That's a good question. Damn.
Fabulous time. You can tell this is a person who genuinely is invested in the longevity of their relationship.
Yeah, that's the shit that you want to do. Like, that's the good maintenance stuff you need for like a long trip.
That's the lube for the nuts.
That's the lube for the nuts, baby. Put it on a shirt. I think the tagline of Ticket Talk was always talking shit and swapping spit, but lube the nuts is this one.
No, I don't think so. That was just me trying to be silly.
Oh, I love it. Never change.
Okay.
What a great question. Do you have an answer for that?
Yes. So I will say, first and foremost, give yourself grace.
Oh yeah.
And don't hold each other don't hold
Give
resentment.
each other grace.
Yes. Please start from a blank slate as much as you can. If you're holding any resentment towards past responses, like this goes both ways in the relationship, where it's like, if you didn't respond a particular way or they didn't respond or it went bumpy and you guys are fumbling through something that was a very difficult time, like that's okay, first of all. And no one is perfect and everyone has feelings and everybody will go through hard times.
Yeah.
So we must accept there will be those hard times.
Yes. And especially during those extreme downs, like this is major juice bag moments.
Because it would be very easy to get like stuck in your juice bag where let's say something horrifically sad happens, or like you said, you fail a huge test and you just like want to cry for a day, or you're just like not in your right mind because you're emotional. You need to like understand that that person, or maybe it's both of you guys, are experiencing a really juicy day that is difficult to manage in that moment.
Yes. I think what you're trying to say is that you're not the same. You're not the same person when you're going through an extreme down.
Your
and I know we're
rationale
talking
might
about
be a little
exams,
far.
but like to bring it back to like a more realistic scenario, like I had a year where I was doing poorly in school. My favorite coffee shop burned down. The pandemic was going on.
Got laid off.
I got laid off. I was working at a diner with a master's degree. My brother almost died 3 times, and my grandpa did die, all
Of
within the
COVID.
same year.
Yeah.
And that was a horrible time. And that was, during that time, I wasn't somebody who I know myself to be. I was in a complete...
Your eye bags had eye bags.
My eye bags had eye bags. I was saying crazy shit. I was doing crazy shit. But I felt like you were always such a good, soft place for me to land.
Well, no, I wasn't always.
Not always.
But this is a perfect segue to melt both of the things we're talking about together,
Sure.
which
Go ahead.
is the grace to understand that those situations are high juice bag moments where they're unpredictable, because emotions are unpredictable, and you can't necessarily label your partner as, oh, they went through this hard thing and therefore they are this because this is their response to it.
Yeah.
And they can't hold against you that I was down for the count, super sad or like disrupted by this horrible feeling, and they weren't helpful at all. Like, you need to acknowledge that those moments will happen. And each time, like, I'm picturing like 2 sound waves, like 2 vibrations, right? They're going to go up and down next to each other, and they may not be the same frequency.
Yeah.
But over time, after you hear the same sounds, soon you guys will just like meet in the middle and have your little straight line where you're pretty much aligned on knowing what your partner needs and being able to fulfill that for them.
Yeah.
But the key to that is having conversations when you're not having a juice bag day.
Yes. And that's like, the juice bag day comes immediately after the... So let's like answer the question in layman's terms, then we can get more into it. So like, when you have a really low day, you are completely subject to your juice bag. You're feeling your emotions. You're very much being controlled by something else, and you're not yourself. During that time, rot. Allow yourself to do what you need to do.
Yeah, do what
Sit
you...
on
It
the
may
couch,
not be rotting.
cry.
It may be... Yes.
In my case, it's rotting.
Feel your feelings.
Your partner needs to understand that that is what you are going through, and that you just need time. And you need time to heal, literally, not figuratively, literally expel those like negative chemicals
Juices.
out of your body.
Yeah, cry them out.
Like seriously heal. And then once you get to that point, then it's time for reflection, communication, and establishing how you're going to move forward. But the step 1 for your partner to do is, if you're going through that, is, as I was saying with Jett, is to be a soft place to land. Let that person, maybe it's a good practice to communicate that ahead of time. And I think even a part of the question is like talking about what you need from your partner. Communicate what you need during those things. Like Jett and I have talked in a few episodes ago how like I definitely like to be coddled. You like to be left alone and kind of like set up for success. So having those conversations early and often and keeping consistent, hopefully your partner will have an idea of like, if Joe Schmo likes to be, eat his emotions or whatever, if something happens. Go
Joe.
DoorDash Joe some ice cream and let him sit on the couch for a day, watch Star Wars, and heal for a little bit. And then after that, he can get back on the bike and, do whatever he needs to do.
Yeah.
But it's very important for you to allow yourself to feel your feelings and then let your partner intervene, I feel like.
And
what do you
also,
think?
I mean, in some ways, I want to also add, like, don't let their low times define them. Like,
Totally.
to be vulnerable, like there was a time in my life when you were having your low year, I was also having a low year
Yeah.
for correlated but unrelated reasons. Like
when it
obviously,
rains, it pours.
Yes.
Like it just wasn't a good vibe in the house.
I mean, I don't, as an empathetic person, I was watching a lot of people in my life have a lot of really hard times that they couldn't recover from, and I couldn't help them.
Yep.
And it made me feel like I was living a delusion. Like I was feeling very run thin and I wasn't sleeping enough. So I was having actual panic attacks for the first time in my life. And there were a couple times where I was having panic attacks and Dakota was like coming at me trying to like help me in those moments. But in reality, I probably needed to be alone.
Yes.
So that I could decompress, but you were just kind of coming at me trying to hug me.
Yeah.
You know, so there's been times like that.
Yeah, you come in too early and you learn.
Yeah.
It just comes with experience.
And same thing with me. I've like tried the harsh.
Oh, God. Yeah. I
approach
remember
to
those.
things. Yeah. And-
Where like I had just had my big down.
Yeah.
And then here comes Jett being like, well, get up and let's go like study up and like do something else. And I'm like, literally, I would rather be shot in the face. I don't want to move
dramatic.
right now. No, not to be dramatic. Literally.
Oh my gosh. No, he's not. But the point is, I don't know. You can kind of help me through explaining this if
Sure.
you're
Go ahead,
picking
go
up what I'm putting down. But like, don't let their lowest point define who they are. Because I've had panic attacks. I had those panic attacks where I was like screaming and, well, not screaming, but just like heavy breathing and not able to catch my breath and like panicking, unlike any other time ever that I've had in my life. And I would feel so shameful if I felt like you always held that against me.
Yeah.
Or were like, I got to be careful because Jett is a panic attacker when she's like in a horrible state. And same thing for you. Like, oh, I better be careful. Dakota's a dissociator, blamey guy when he's his worst or whatever.
Like, I mean, did we forget the entire first part of our podcast today? Which is that you need to not let the past define you.
Right.
And you need to do the same thing with your partner. If they're having an anomaly, an experience that is finite and something that they don't have control over, don't let them fall into a pit that's going to turn them into like a victim or allow them to think it's anything except just chance. It's not their fault. Like if you lose a test, you're not a failure. You're just somebody who failed a test. You could just as easily be somebody who passes a test. I was reading on this architecture article on Reddit recently. It was my article. I posted it because I was like, I failed the test, blah, blah, blah. And everybody was so supportive. And they're like, you know what? Everyone fails tests, man. And like at the end of the day, when you get all of your tests done, they're all going to call us architects. And that's true with life, man. Like we all have our scars. We all have our bumps in the road and stuff. But as long as you get to the end, you are who you are. And you don't have to change your perspective of who you are based on something that happens to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And just making sure, like, I think mixed in with all this with your partner, when you have, if maybe you're experiencing a lot of down times where there's just been a ton of challenges and you're going through a lot of changes,
Can relate.
also make sure that you're sprinkling in gratitude for each other in those times. Be like, hey, I know last time, you know, maybe we fumbled through this, but I'm really grateful for your attempt. And I am so glad you are attempting to be there for me.
Yeah.
And I can sense that we're getting stronger every single time.
Yeah.
And it is a goal of mine to improve every time so that we can become partners who are the soft place to land and know perfectly how to help each other through those hard times.
You know, to bring it back to the first question, I almost feel like that was something I learned a few months into our
marriage.
Because I think like right after we got married, I failed a year of architecture. Or maybe,
That was the year before.
Was it?
Sorry to mess up your
No,
story.
that's okay. I mean, I'm sure I had plenty of other hardships during architecture school. It was so hard. But it is, you just, when we got married a few months after we did get married, I felt this responsibility that like I now have to fight for you. It was like really nice. I know I'm butchering this because it's like an epiphany I'm having like in the moment.
Real
but, like,
time.
real time is like you understand the responsibility that you've taken on. And it's not immediately apparent until something happens to where you're like, oh, I'm responsible for this. Like I'm responsible for this person's well-being as well as my own. In sickness and in health, y'all. It's not a joke. Like you helped me so much through school. I like to think I helped you so much through school. You've helped me through hard times. I've helped you through hard times. And we get better at it. But it all comes with practice and communication, understanding each other's needs, and buying into your role and like coming through for your partner.
And also, I want to reiterate my favorite concept maybe of 2023, which is repacing your life.
Yes.
Like pace matched with patience and trust in your partner and the mindset of growing together and having the perspective that it's a positive responsibility of, I mean, I genuinely think the reason our marriage is so strong and unwavering is because our mission statement is to stay together. Like,
Yeah, dude.
it has never, and not in just like a share a house and finances type way, in a stay in love, stay committed, and bring equal amounts of growth and joy and love to each other as we can to have a beautiful life, because we're responsible for having that. And I think having the opportunity to do that as a motivator is a beautiful opportunity and should not be something to be feared but embraced.
Well, I think that's profound and lovely. And I think our listeners are very educated, because I feel like asking those questions already like leads insight into the emotional intelligence and stuff you need to, I feel like, be successful in a relationship. So seriously, thank you to the listeners who provided some questions. If you guys have any questions, make sure to send them our way.
The Juice Bag Pod.
Yeah, it's
on
so much
Instagram.
It's so much fun for us to kind of talk together about a concept as opposed to asking each other questions. So I felt like this was really fun.
I
felt like this
agree.
was a really fun episode.
Woohoo!
And not to mention next week's freaking Christmas,
Yes,
bro.
and we've dangled it a couple times.
Yeah.
But next week we're doing our holiday episode.
We're going to do the holiday episode.
where we
fun
talk
stories.
about fun stories from
maybe
the
go
holidays.
through some pictures. Maybe we'll post a few pictures from our
Ooh.
memory trunk. We
Yeah.
could go through our memory trunk.
I like that.
Yeah. Ooh, that's...
Ooh, well, maybe we should do holiday episode, memory chest episode the next, because New Year, like
I
Christmas,
guess, yeah,
New
we
Year.
can talk a lot, so maybe we'll separate them into two things. But spoilers, everybody, we have a trunk that's almost needing to be two trunks full of shit from the past, and we love going through it like every year during Valentine's Day. But I think this year we'll probably pop it over for Christmas. So
I like it.
I like it too. Anyway, thank you, everybody. We love ya. Keep listening. We'll see you next week.
Send it to a friend.
Don't be a coward.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Juice Bag. Were you surprised by what we said? We were. Oh no, is this on the internet forever? Oh God.
Can't take it off the internet. Hope we don't do this again next week.
Ooh, what if we did this again next week?
Maybe it could be like a thing. Who knows?
See you next time.
Tune in next time to find out.
Or not.